how to be more authentic. So are you feeling like you've got this imposter syndrome going on where sometimes you feel like you're a fraud, you have no idea why. You're like, I didn't steal any money, I didn't do anything wrong, but for some reason I'm not feeling like myself. Maybe you even you're an influencer, maybe you're a celebrity, maybe you have some sort of professional identity, some alter ego, and you don't know who you are without that. Like, what if all of that went away? Who would you be then, right? So today I'm gonna tell you how to be more authentic in your life and in your business, and so that you can feel more integrated with this professional identity, or maybe just not feel this imposter syndrome anymore. My name is Monica Reyes, and I am a spiritual and high performance coach, and I talk to you about mind, business, and spirit, where you get to learn about the truth of what all of this is and how to navigate this beautiful journey of life. And today, we're gonna talk about how to be more authentic. So the first thing about authenticity, it is a lifelong process. That's what this whole life journey is about. This journey is about becoming more of you. It's not changing you. It's not becoming a new you. It is really becoming more of you. It is really more of an unbecoming. So when we were children, between the ages of 0 to 7, we basically were in a hypnotic state. You could say you were in hypnosis and you were absorbing everything around you, right? Your parents, your teachers, your coaches, your friends, whoever you spent the most amount of time with, you became influenced, and that built up what's called your subconscious mind. 95% of your subconscious mind is who you are today, which is why sometimes you may even feel like you throw a tantrum once in a while, even as an adult, right? It's so funny because that's actually, I have kids, and that's exactly how I feel sometimes. So there are these parts of us that are called, they're fragments. They're called subpersonalities, and we form them because that allowed us to adapt ourselves to our environment, which is really important when it comes to authenticity, because most of the time we are operating from one of these fragments, from the lens of the fragments. So if you can imagine them all as these little characters in our body, in our mind, right? There's a quote, every person is a crowd, which I love because it's so true. And so we've got all of these little identities, these personalities inside of us. Some of them are still stunted as like inner children. Some of them have grown up as mature adults. Some of them come in and control and dominate without even knowing. They actually control all of your psychological functions. They control, your imagination. They control your thinking, how you think, how you act, how you behave, even your energy. You can even feel the difference of what it feels like when one of these has taken over. And so when we're operating from one of those fragments, we are not our most authentic self. And so even our alter ego, so say you're a celebrity, or you've built this professional identity, most of the time you are living mostly there, which is why when the lights are off, when you're back home, nobody gets to know that part of you. And sometimes you don't even know who you are. Sometimes you don't even know like yourself beyond who that identity is, which is why you may have witnessed in the news celebrities that experience these breakdowns, because in essence, they lose themselves. They completely lose themselves. They've lost complete connection to that inner self, that inner real higher self. You also see this with athletes. The minute, I was working with retired NFL players, and you'll see that they've completely wrapped themselves up in the identity of being an NFL player. And then the minute that career ends, they're like, who am I? And then they go into depression, and then they become broke. And then, there's high suicide rates, and because they don't know who they are beyond this professional identity. And so it's a beautiful thing when these have been developed, these identities, and you can still have them. I'm not telling you not to have your professional identity. However, it's way more intentional when you know that it's just an identity and it's not you. And so when you're coming from this grounded place of, I know who I am, higher self, right? So if you can imagine a wheel, and there's spokes on the wheel, right? And connected to the spokes are these little balls. Those balls are your identity, but in the center is you. The center of you is pure awareness. You are boundless, limitless. You are spirit, your higher self. You are pure energy, pure consciousness, right? When you're coming from that place. And if you meditate and you practice mindfulness, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're able to pop into that space of observer where you observe your thoughts and you observe your sensations and you're observing as this like silent observer. That is who you are. It's what I call the blue sky, right? Everything else, they're just clouds. Everything else, they're just storms. You are the blue sky, right? And so that's why meditation and mindfulness is so important, because it really grounds you into really who you are, which is the universe, right? You are not in the universe, you are the universe. So if you can connect to that, you will then be able to channel in your professional identity. You can channel all these fragments in, and you can integrate the fragments. So these fragments, examples of a fragment, it would be like perfectionist, people pleaser, victim, like the little inner child, the wounded child. Sometimes there's like the hyper spiritual, sometimes there's the rebel, right? There are all these different parts of us that pop up. And so when they take over and they become dominant, then we lose ourselves. So how do I become more authentic? So become more authentic. Tip number 1 will be to meditate and practice mindfulness, to connect to that inner self, that higher self, that space beyond the thoughts, that space beyond the sensations, beyond the emotions. That is who you are. That is infinite wisdom. That is infinite love. That is all knowing. That is the universe, that really grounded space. Now from that space, intentionally going in and activating this professional identity, this celebrity alter ego, right? That's a powerful thing to do, because now you know who you are. And now you get to, call in that, and you get to put that hat on, and then you can do that when intention, and then when you're done, you take that off. And this process of authenticity is learning, it's self-discovery. So the tip number 2 that I would say would be self-contemplation and self-reflection. Do you take time to get to know who you are beyond the identities, beyond all, like really taking time to journal? There's a beautiful practice by Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way called morning pages. This is something I started, and it was life-changing. It is 3 pages every morning, and if you can't do the morning, you can do evening. So I was doing evening for a while because that's just what worked for my schedule. And so in essence, what you do is you write 3 pages on pen to paper without stopping, nonstop, no matter what. Even if what you're writing is, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write. Eventually you will. And if that's what's popping up, that's likely a fragment. There's some fear, there's something blocking you, there's some sort of self-sabotage happening there. Maybe you don't feel comfortable for some reason. Totally okay. Again, there's no wrong way to do this. This is a process. But I invite you to start to take a look and get to know who you really are. Even if you aren't a celebrity or don't have these professional identities, right? You still have fragments, because we all went through childhood, and I have yet to meet anybody that went through a perfect childhood, because it doesn't exist. Everybody has stuff that they need to work through. So morning pages, journaling, self-reflection, self-contemplation, and taking that a step further even. Like once you start to identify these like fragments of, and check out my videos because I've got some videos on that as well, is you can even find out like who, doing what's called an evening review at the end of each day. Who showed up today? Like who showed up? Did the perfectionist show up today, and why? Right? And then you can start to get really intentional. So then you can see like, I pop into this fragment, I pop into this victim identity every time this person shows up, right? And so there are behavioral markers of that person that triggers your victim, or triggers you into becoming invisible, or becoming meek and shy, and maybe like damsel in distress. Like we've got all of these different parts of us. And so really just identifying and becoming really intentional. What I also love about this is that you can also begin to call in. So I was introverted for a big part of my life. That was the fragment that I lived through. And once I got out of that and realized that I am so all powerful, and there was obviously a quality. It served me because it allowed me to go deep with my relationship. So that's the quality I pulled out of that fragment. But I call in my speaker identity as a motivational speaker, or my coach, right? Sometimes if I become socially anxious, I know that if I call that in, I will instantly feel confident. I will instantly feel comfortable. So I call that part of me in, but I always come from the centered, authentic place. So, moral of the story, get to know who you are. Get to know who you are. Meditate, journal, really take the time to self-contemplate, and ask yourself, like, does this authentic part of me, like, what is he or she like? Like, does she, I know that in the past I've liked strawberries, but does this real me like strawberries? Like, or is that something I've always done? Is this something that I grew up doing? Like be curious. That's the quality that I invite you to have throughout this process, is curiosity and compassion, right? Just curious, like, what do I really like? Do I really like this, right? And just, and be curious and explore. This is supposed to be fun, no stress. And if you're stressed out over this, then that's probably a fragment. That's probably a fragment of maybe you afraid of disappointing, or you afraid of not getting right. Maybe it's a perfectionist thing, right? Just let it all go. Let it all go and give yourself permission to have fun and just explore who you are. This is a beautiful self-discovery process. And what I love about the universe is that whenever we embark on some sort of like discovery journey, the universe provides you with everything you need. You're going to get people that come out of the woodworks that are going to, they're going to like elevate you in some way or expand you or bring light to parts of you. And just know that that's, once you set that intention, it's a decision. The universe will bring you everything that you need in order to really start to get to know who you are. But it's supposed to be fun. So have fun with it, be curious, and be compassionate. All right, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's definitely one of my favorite topics, as you can tell. So if you liked it, go ahead and give me a like, hit that like button. And if you want to hear more, hit that subscriber button. It's important for you to ring that bell, because if you do, you're going to get notified every time I send out a new video. All right, so I hope you enjoyed it. Have an amazing day. See you next time.